Hello, everybody, welcome back to Gyanan. This is the series of 100 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People audiobook. How People Think. Chapter 33. People process information best in story form. One day, many years ago, I found myself in front of a classroom full of user interface designers who did not want it to be there. Their boss had told me they had to attend the talk I was giving. I knew that many or most of them thought the class was a waste of time, and knowing that was making me nervous. I decided to be brave and forge ahead. Certainly, my great content would grab their attention, right? I took a deep breath, smiled, and with a strong voice, I started the session with a big "Hello everyone, I am certainly glad to be here." More than half the class wasn't even looking at me. They were reading their emails and writing out to-do lists. One guy had the morning newspaper open and was reading that. It was one of those moments where seconds seemed like hours. I thought to myself in panic, what am I going to do? Then I had an idea. "Let me tell you a story," I said. And the word story, everyone's head jerked up and all eyes were on me. I knew I only had a few seconds to start a story that would hold their attention. It was 1988 and a team of Navy officers were staring at a computer screen. Something had just appeared on the radar and in protected airspace. They had orders to shoot down any unknown aircraft. Was this an unknown aircraft? Was it a military plane? Was it a commercial airliner? They had 2 minutes to decide what to do. I had them. Everyone was interested and riveted. I finished the story, which nicely made my point about why it can be so important that they should care about designing usable interfaces that avoid user uncertainty. And we were off to a great start. The rest of the day flew by. Everyone was interested and engaged, and I got some of my best teacher evaluations ever. Now I make sure to use magic phrase, "Let me tell you a story," at least once in every talk I give or class I teach. You may have realized what I did in paragraph above was tell a story. Stories are very powerful. They grab and hold attention. But they do more than that. They also help people process information and imply causation. Tried and true story formats. Aristotle identified the basic structure of stories, and many people have expounded on his ideas since. One model is the basic 3-act structure: beginning, middle, and the end. This may not sound very unusual, but when Aristotle came up with it over 2000 years ago, it was probably pretty radical. In the beginning, you introduce your audience to the setting, the characters, and the situation or conflict. In the story above, I introduced you to the setting. I had to give a class. The characters, me and the students, and the conflict, students don't want to be there. My story was very short, so the middle part was too short too. In the middle part of a story, there are typically obstacles and conflicts that the main character has to overcome. These are usually somewhat resolved, but not completely resolved. In my story above, the main character tried her usual opening and it failed. Then she started to panic. In the end of the story, the conflict comes to a climax, then it's resolved. In my story above, I thought of what to do. Tell a story to the class, which I did, and which succeeded. This is just a basic outline. There are many variations and plots that can be added and woven in. Classic stories. There are many stories that appear over and over in literature and in movies. Here are some of the popular themes that have been identified: the great journey, coming of age, the sacrifice, the epic battle, the fall from grace, love, fate, revenge, the trick, mystery. Stories imply causation. Stories may create causation when none is there, because stories usually involve some form of chronological narrative. First this happens, next this happens. They simply cause they imply causation even where none exists. Christopher Chabris and Daniel Simons gave this example in their book The Invisible Gorilla 2010. Look at these two pages. Joey's big brother punched him again and again. The next day his body was covered by bruises. Joey's crazy mother became furiously angry with him. The next day his body was covered by bruises. In the first passage, you don't need to assume much. Joey got punched and he has bruises. He got the bruises from being punched. In the second passage, the interference is not quite so clear. Research shows that your brain will actually take a little bit longer to ponder the second paragraph. Yet, most people will conclude that Joey has bruises because of his mother, even though the passage doesn't say that. In fact, if you ask people later to remember the passage, they will believe that they read in the story that Joey's mother actually hit him, even though that is not what the paragraph says. People are quick to assign causality. Just as the visual cortex is filling what you see to find and detect patterns, see how people see chapter, our thought processes do the same thing. You're always looking for causation. Your brain assumes you have been given all the pertinent information and there is causation. Stories make it even easier to make this casual leap. Stories are important in all communications. Sometimes clients say to me, "Stories are fine at some websites, but not one I'm working on now. I'm designing the website of a company's annual report. Stories aren't appropriate there, it's just financial information." Not true. There are appropriate stories you can use anytime you're trying to communicate. Medtronic is a medical technology company. Take a look at their annual report. The online version is the same as the print version. The link is given in the description box. The cover of the report is high quality photo of Antoinette Walters, a patient who was helped by one of the Medtronic's products later. Later in the report, there's a short story about Antoinette. Antoinette Walters, shown here and on the cover, had such a severe lumbar scoliosis that the pain incapacitated her and the deformity was progressively getting worse. Then she underwent spinal fusion surgery using Medtronic spinal products to correct the alignment. Today, Antoinette's spine is much straighter. Her pain is virtually gone and she is several inches tall. Antoinette is not the only story in the annual report. Sprinkled in with the financial information are high quality photos as well as stories about people like Antoinette and employees who invented various technologies. The stories make the rest of the information in the report seem more interesting and also create a link between financial numbers and stated mission of the company. Key takeaways. Stories are the natural way people process information. Use a story if you want people to make a casual leap. Stories aren't just for fun. No matter how dry you think your information is, using stories will make it understandable, interesting, and memorable. To be continued. Thank you for watching the video. Like, share, subscribe.